Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I hope you are okay wherever you are. I'm also fine. Welcome to another episode of Raw Politics. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to look into President William Ruto's promises or policies, and then see whether they have worked or they have failed. That is what we are going to look into. And I welcome you wherever you're watching us from. Feel free to share where you're watching from. And of course, also share your view on the subject. According to you, has President Ruto's bottom-up economic agenda worked so far? Or, in your opinion, has it failed? Now, as usual, we will approach this systematically. That is, we are going to begin with what William Ruto promised, what he said that particular promise was supposed to achieve. Then we will move to what has he done, like implemented, and that particular implementation, what impact has it had on Kenyans? Is it something worth continuing with, or is it a policy that should be stopped forthwith? And then later, we will conclude based on what we find, whether President Ruto deserves to be re-elected, or indeed he should take the next vehicle to Sugoi. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that would be a very fair approach. And those of you who have joined, karibuni sana. Continue liking and sharing so that more people can join. Now, President Ruto's bottom-up economic transformation agenda is not necessarily something new, let alone unique. It borrows heavily from what they had with Uhuru Kenyatta called the Big Four agenda. Those of you who can remember, when Uhuru Kenyatta was moving into his re-election of 2017, he coined an agenda, a platform on which he asked to be re-elected. And he said, I quote, having moved across the country and having governed the country for the 5 years, that was the first term, he had identified key areas that indeed needed effort. And those key areas, according to Uhuru Kenyatta, was number 1, housing, number 2, universal health, number 3, manufacturing, and of course, he also had the digital superhighway, something akin to that. Or was it the agriculture? Yes. So that was Uhuru Kenyatta's agenda. And William Ruto just borrowed that and said, this is what we campaigned on in 2017. For some reason, Uhuru Kenyatta decided to abandon it for BBI. He became focused on changing the constitution to create positions. And so he literally abandoned the Big Four agenda. William Ruto, the president today, then the deputy, said, even if we are competing, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Whatever it is that we had with Uhuru Kenyatta, what we had agreed to do for Kenyans, is still extremely relevant and worth doing. And that is where the bottom-up transformation agenda, the 5 pillars, came from. You can match them one by one with their Uhuru's Big Four. And when I saw people, when Ruto announced the bottom-up, and some people were mocking him, yet at the same time they were with Uhuru in Big Four, I said this was the height of hypocrisy. But then that's beside the point. What I was telling you is that this is not something new. It is not a creation of William Ruto, some weird policies that he came up with. No, he just explained or expanded Uhuru's Big Four. And so, what was the goal with this? Like, what did the guys who came up with the Big Four want to achieve? What was their goal? Simple. They looked at Kenya and said that Kenya was punching below her weight. That in Kenya, medical cover shouldn't be a preserve of a few people. It should be something that is available to majority of Kenyans. They also said Kenya should not be a place where 7 million live in slums. The housing crisis needed solution. These people also said that, you see, Kenya should be a manufacturing hub. In terms of creation of job, Kenya should be creating jobs through manufacturing, industrialization. That is what would make Kenya grow eventually. And of course, the people who came up with the Big Four agenda and eventually bottom-up transformative agenda argued that we should not be food insecure. It didn't make sense that with the arable land we have, with the natural resources we have, with the good rain that some part of Kenya receive, we should still be having Kenyans starving year on, starving virtually every year. It was like every year you would see Kenyans for Kenyans, people donating to save fellow Kenyans actually from starving to death. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is what informed this agenda. Understanding where we were and proposing solutions. It was that simple. And I repeat, it is not something new. It is not something unique. And it is not something out of this world. Because the challenges that the agenda seek to address exist. So it's not a creation. People are living in slums. That is true. Perhaps you have a relative who lives in a slum, or perhaps as you watch, you are living in the slums. So that is a reality. Is that the ideal situation? Is that where we are supposed to be as a country? No. And so that needed solution. There are people who are dying from preventable diseases. Why? Because they don't have cover. They don't have access to good medication. Is that a lie? That is true. So that needed fixing, and so on and so forth. That is the basis of this agenda. When some people argue that President Ruto coined some things, outrageous things, and started forcing them through Kenyans' throats, that is far-fetched. Why? I have just told you the problems that this agenda, these points or pillars seek to address exist to date. And there are things that any leader worth their salt must be obsessed with solving. Yes, that is what must happen. If you're a good leader, you must find solution for your people. And so William Ruto, moving into the elections of 2022, ladies and gentlemen, told Kenyans that if you elected me, I have 5 areas that I will focus on. And this is why I will focus on those areas. And this is what I intend to achieve by focusing on such areas. The first pillar that President William Ruto spoke of, and I always remind you here that William Ruto released a manifesto that the critics said had one major problem. It was too detailed. I am not kidding. That is what they were saying. That was too detailed. That is not a manifesto. A manifesto should just be some few talking points, and then those details you spare. But the plan, as William Ruto, the president, now and then deputy president, said, called it, was so detailed. It listed what the challenge was, what the proposed solution was, and how to implement and fund the solution. It was there. Even if today you went and downloaded the plan, it is online, it is a public document, and read it, you will find that William Ruto explained what the challenge was, what he proposed as a solution, and how he was going to implement. So implementation was not left to our imagination. We were actually told if it is something that was supposed to be funded, we were told this is how it will be funded. And so if we voted for it, knowing very well that this is how it was supposed to be implemented, then it will be very hypocritical to decide now that, you see, uh, this is something that we didn't sign up for. That would be hypocrisy on our part. Among the 5 things the president promised Kenyans, number one was agriculture. He also spoke about affordable housing. The president went ahead and talked about universal health cover. Of course, there was what we call digital super highway. And then he was to do something about the micro, small, and medium enterprises. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the better agenda. Those who are civil servants understand that as a civil servant, it is your work to understand the agenda of the new regime. So if the new regime, if you're under Uhuru Kenyatta, your agenda, apart from the Vision 2030, was also, the long-term agenda was Vision 2030, but the short-term agenda of the regime was under Uhuru Kenyatta, Big Four agenda. Under William Ruto, it is better. Bottom-up, economic, transformation agenda. And it is made up of the 5 pillars I've spoken of. So that is what he promised. Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the next part. I have told you the genesis of this agenda. Said it is not his own creation. He was just adapting what had already been created, and he felt it should be implemented. Okay? I have also told you he detailed what the problems were, what proposed solutions were, and how to implement and fund those solutions. And I've just mentioned what the agenda was: agriculture, health, jobs, that is the digital economy. You have affordable housing, and of course, hustlers, the businesses. So when Ruto took power, he set to work. And each of the 5 pillars that he named, he has embarked on implementing them. And when I say each, I mean each. This is why anytime I see someone who says Ruto is a liar, who made promises that he is not keeping, I ask myself, on what grounds are we concluding this? Remember, a president is elected on a manifesto. The manifesto promised 5 key things: how they were going to solve our problems and how they were going to be funded. And I am telling you here that each of the 5 has been initiated and implementation is ongoing, some at advanced stages. Let's begin with agriculture. You see, what was the issue? We have land, not that Kenya is mostly dry, not that Kenya is not mostly dry. A big chunk of Kenya is actually semi arid, uh, might not be very good at food production, but with irrigation it can. The president was saying, first, let us focus on the arable land, the ones that we have that we know are viable. Can we increase capacity? And how? How do you increase capacity? A capacity of who to begin with? He said, whereas we have large scale farmers, they are not the majority. Majority of Kenyans are what we call small scale farmers or subsistence farmers, those who produce to eat. They barely sell. The problem is what they were producing to eat wasn't enough. Somebody has maybe 5 acres, and from these 5 acres, he gets, if he's doing maize, he ends up with a mediocre yield of even 6 bags. I am not kidding. You would go to some places and you'll find a very big chunk of land from, I don't know, the hill to the river, and it is maize farm, and they get 6 bags. These 6 bags are what they would sell, some of them, maybe to take the kids to school. And within a short time, they have nothing to eat. That is why in some places, especially if you come to Luo Nyanza, you would find that they have names for uh, some dry seasons or when there is no food. So those particular lack of grain, etc., usually get very funny names. At times they call them Uhuru has done this. They have very funny names. But I was just telling you that you may have very big land. The production is not sufficient. However, subsistence is not sufficient to actually take care of you as a family, because some people were forced to sell uh, whatever it is little that they got to take care of a few things here and there. And so William Ruto was saying, let us increase or improve the capacity, meaning what is it that they can produce? If somebody was producing 5 bags, what if they could produce 10? It's not a big miracle, but you see, 10 bags is twice the number of bags this person was having. So that means that even if they sold 5 bags, they would still have something to eat. And I'm talking from personal experience, because when the affordable subsidized fertilizer was introduced, I'm one of the people who took advantage of it. And the system was very good. I can tell you that. You just register your land, and then they assign you the number of bags you can get. And so I was assigned, I think, 4 bags. Yes. And so what happens is you go pick this fertilizer, use it on your farm. We moved from very few bags. What I can tell you is that we doubled whatever it is that we were getting. And I thank God that we moved from the uncertainty of not having food to knowing very well that even if it was very dry, we will still have reserve. That is what I call improving the capacity. so that even if they're not selling, they're not starving also. And President Ruto had promised that immediately he takes over, he was going to ensure that subsidized fertilizer was actually subsidized fertilizer. Now, why am I saying he was going to make sure? This is not also a new invention of President Ruto. You remember when Munya was the minister in charge of agriculture, and there was a lot of complaint about subsidized fertilizer. The subsidized fertilizer was supposed to be sold at a cheaper price, but it was still being sold at 7,500. I remember Munya was explaining some reasons. So President Ruto said, when I take over, I am going to expand the distribution of this subsidized fertilizer, but I'm also going to make sure that it is efficiently distributed, meaning it is given to farmers, not to resellers. Because what was happening before is that there are people who have connections, and people with these connections would go and take the fertilizer from government, the subsidized one, maybe at 3,000 Kenya shillings, and then now take them to their stores and sell it at the normal price of 7,500. It was a small scandal there. You can go and confirm. You can visit the archives, Munya explaining himself. I remember even Martha Karua now, because they were with Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, she was trying to explain and defend this fertilizer. So the president just said, when I take over, I'll make sure the distribution is okay. I'll make sure this and this and this. So even though there was some instance where some people said they were sold a wrong fertilizer, that was quickly dealt with, and people resumed getting the genuine fertilizer. The ones, the people who were even mentioned, you can go and confirm, guys at National Cereal Board and other places were actually taken to court. They're still there. You can confirm their court records. So the likes of the minister then was actually taken to parliament, and had to explain himself seriously. And I believe that when the president dissolved his cabinet, one of the people who didn't return was the former minister for agriculture, though he said it was political. But I'm just giving you an example of this aspect of ensuring that our production was increased. But you see, the president, when dealing with agriculture, didn't just confine himself to maize production and giving people fertilizer. That is not what agriculture in the country is all about. There is also the aspect of irrigation. And I was watching the Lower Trans Nzoia irrigation just today. The farmers there saying initially we had to use pumps and it was costing us a lot. I even know some places in Ahero and even some places in Homa Bay, some places in the coast, you all see the Gulana, is it Galana or Gulana? The one in Tenerife. You're seeing a lot of progress there, ladies and gentlemen. So the president is saying if we could do at least 50 major dams and put at least 2 million acres under irrigation, then we will not just have sufficient food, we will have enough to export. This is what he said he would do. And as we speak, the affordable fertilizer, the subsidized one, is already there. Farmers are getting it and are using it. What is the result? If you look at our data in terms of maize production, in terms of our production, in terms of sugarcane and other things, the production has gone higher. Agriculture was also not just limited to crops. Agriculture was also touching on dairy, And currently, the milk production has improved. These are things that you have two choices. You can either believe that milk production has gone down and milk farmers are also being paid less. And then you give us an example of who is being paid less for milk. You can believe today that coffee farmers are getting a raw deal, or just believe that they are getting the best prices they have ever gotten since independence. You can believe that tea farmers are really suffering under William Ruto, or that actually they are getting better rates than they were getting before. It's a matter of choice, but I'm telling you here that without fear of contradiction, coffee, tea, dairy, maize production, and even the sugarcane industry are doing better than before, and not just by a small margin. Something like sugar industry was already dead. If you are a sugarcane farmer and you're here, maybe from Dewa, you're from Migori, Awendo, you're from Busia, Zoya, wherever you are from, if you're a sugarcane farmer, you know very well that it was already gone. The industry was dead. But then William Ruto came and said, this is something that we cannot allow to die. And today, we are not just producing more sugar. We are approaching level where we will have enough sugar and even more to export. Those who usually do sugarcane farming. I was talking to one, and he was saying that initially, this was, I think, somebody from yes, from Mumias. This person was saying that initially he would supply the cane and wait for a year or two, chasing his payment. You see, you supply and you chase for payment a whole year. Nowadays, I would need somebody to confirm here. Nowadays, he says that the maximum waiting time is less than 3 weeks. According to him, it was 2 weeks you have been paid. And they're even getting bonus nowadays. So that might not be a big thing to you. I remember the governor for Nyeri was saying, sisi ndio tunakula hiyo miwa. Now, it may not be a big thing to you, but for this particular farmer, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. If now they can take their sugarcane and get paid in time, is a big deal. So under agriculture, William Ruto had promised that he was going to ensure we increase capacity by either subsidizing production and also making sure that you enhance production, you diversify, you make sure that people can embrace water-fed agriculture, not rain-fed agriculture, through irrigation. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the first pillar. So the question we are answering here, per pillar, the question we are answering here, he promised he will do this. He was given a chance as a president. He has put in initiatives under that particular promise. Are these things that are affecting the lives of Kenyans positively? Or is this something that Kenyans are supposed to frown upon? If you're a farmer who was producing 5 bags and now you can do 15, is that something you're supposed to be happy about or something you're supposed to be sad about? If you are a sugarcane farmer who was not being paid even a single day, who had to wait for a year or 2 years to be paid, and now you can be paid in less than a month, is that something you're supposed to be happy about or frown about? If you're a coffee farmer and now you are getting more money than you were getting before per kg of your coffee, is it something that you are supposed to be happy about or sad about? The same goes to tea farmers. And I can even say dairy. Is it something you're supposed to be frowning about or happy about? That is the question I put to you, ladies and gentlemen. Because I told you, let us always judge politicians based on what they promise to do and actually what they end up doing. Ruto promised he will do something about agriculture. It is true, we still don't have the 50 dams, but irrigation is already peaking. I was just telling you of Lower Transoya and other places. Golana is there doing well. And there is plan to expand until we cover maybe millions of acres under irrigation. Is that something you would want to see continue or you would want to see an end of? Let me leave that question to you. We move to the second pillar, ladies and gentlemen. President Ruto, when they were serving with Uhuru Kenyatta, and Uhuru Kenyatta was the president, in the Big Four agenda, they categorically stated that Kenya had 1,000 slums distributed across the country. And in those 1,000 slums were 7 million Kenyans. Now, some of you may be privileged enough, you've never been to a slum, let alone living there. But some of us grew literally the most of our lives we spent in slums. And so the conditions are what you would call deplorable. Issues like clean water is a luxury because perhaps the pipe of the water and the pipe of the sewer line, if it exists, because in those places it is almost impossible to even get good sewer line. People still use pit latrines, and it is shared. I'm not kidding. Very deplorable conditions. Most of the houses don't have the necessary amenities that matter to you. Let's just say living in slums is dehumanizing. And so Uhuru Kenyatta said that having worked in the country, he saw that that needed fixing. They asked themselves, that is him and Ruto, what do we do? How do we approach this? Because initially we had tried something called slum upgrading. So upgrading is making sure that even though the houses are still teen houses and very mediocre, you have infrastructure around it. So you would go to Kibera, you would go there, and you would find that when Waiguru was in charge of devolution, I believe, you would find that now they were cleaning the waterways, the drainage was being taken care of, but the houses remained teen houses, very mediocre living. So Uhuru and Ruto said, this upgrading thing is not good because it is as if somebody has a wound and all you are doing is to look for elastoplast. That's what they call it here. You're just wrapping something around the wound. That won't cure the wound. It might make it look nice so that you can put on your trouser, but it is not doing anything towards healing that wound. So they said, what we need is to actually build houses, not just for the people in slums, but even for the middle class who are being taken advantage of. Because then the people in the middle class are usually being forgotten. They suffer even more in pursuit of decent housing. So you'd find that the property prices are not even realistic. You are in a place that does not even have amenities, and the property prices, even the price of land, let alone the house, is out of this world. So they said, let us come up with a way we are going to build houses, but build them in clusters. We have ones we call social housing. And this social housing are for those who are moving from slums to dignified houses. And these ones, you don't come with your money as a middle class and get a social housing. You can't even get that now. Even if you went to Bomayangu, you will not qualify for a social housing, no matter what you do. Because when you are filling the Bomayangu uh, form, trying to look for a house, my friend, it will ask you for your bank statement or M-Pesa statement for the past 6 months. And once you uploaded that, I tell you, you will never qualify for those affordable, for those social housing. You may qualify for the affordable. So they are divided into those three classes. Social for those who are moving from slums, affordable for the people in the middle class who are just looking for, or some teacher or a civil servant who is just looking for a decent house. And then we have the ones we call market rate. This is for somebody who wants to buy a house, but what is being sold out there is exorbitant. For instance, how much is the average for a three-bedroom apartment nowadays in Kenya? What is the market rate? A three-bedroom apartment, even in places like Donom, will still cost you 10 million. Even in Nyayo, if you're buying that, it is 10 million. But in affordable housing program under market rates, the house is still below 4 million. Mostly they are very cheap. That is why overall they qualify to be affordable. And so they said, this is how we are going to fix this country. And has it been done elsewhere? Yes, it has been done somewhere. Those of you who are watching from the US, if you live in New York, there is a place, it's called Long Island. Long Island City, not the Long Island as a whole, but just Long Island City. There is a very big housing project there with thousands of houses where people live at very subsidized rates. So even in that developed countries, uh, there are affordable houses. Even in Singapore, whether you went to Korea, they are. So people, and China is doing this at massive levels. So this is something that has been done elsewhere. And they said, okay, let us replicate it here because wherever it has been done, it's been successful. It has managed to move people from slum to decent housing. And that is what they agreed to do. Like I said, Uhuru preferred to pursue something else and gave up on the affordable housing when people started making noise. Yes, when there was a lot of noise from Kenyans, especially civil servants, who took Uhuru to court. You can refer, you will find that. Took him to court for charging them levy. There's somebody who was telling me Uhuru built these houses without charging us levy. And I was like, in which world do you live? Or this is just a personal decision that you'll be forgetting everything you want to forget. People took him to court. And when that happened, Uhuru was the kind who would say, I'm trying to help you, but you are behaving as if you're wiser. Okay, fine. And so he went and concentrated on building his Northland city, which is a wonderful housing project. He said Kenyans don't want houses. So fine, if you don't want houses, live in the slum. That's what you want. Or if you're a middle class, pay the exorbitant rate. That is up to you. But Ruto said that is not leadership. You don't give up on people when they have given an opportunity to lead. As a leader, you make hard decisions. That is why you're a leader. Your work is to make the decisions others are not comfortable making. And you are the person who is supposed to have the vision for the country. So William Ruto came back to that same affordable housing. In fact, he retained the PS who was in charge of that affordable housing. The same PS who was in charge of affordable housing under Uhuru Kenyatta, Banahinga, Charles, is the same PS of affordable housing. Is the one running that program. And that person was brought to Kenya. Guess by who? Who had the affordable housing dream initially? Who brought them this Hinga? Is none other than Raila Odinga. Yes. His dream was to have affordable housing because Raila tried sometime in Kibra. If you go to Langata or Kibra, you'll find that there were some houses that were built when Raila Odinga was either prime minister or when he was still an MP for Langata. And these houses, something happened. The poor people who were allocated these houses rented them out to those who are stable and went back to expand the slum. And so he also agreed that that does not work. Upgrading the slum and all these other things don't work. He was passionate. In fact, in their manifesto, they even indicated, ODM manifesto, which Sifuna claimed he participated in writing, had affordable housing with the fee that they were going to charge. But today you'll find him seated somewhere saying that instead of spending that money in building affordable houses, you should build a mortuary, or lawyers can't go to 14th floor. It's a very funny world. But I was telling you that this is not something new. It was something that was partisan, bipartisan, that is. The major parties, that is Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, both wanted to implement affordable housing. And so the question we asked ourselves, when Ruto took over, did he proceed with affordable housing or ilikuwa story ya jaba? This one I don't even need to answer. Kenya is like a construction site. In fact, according to some stats, the biggest project in some of the counties we have are those affordable housing projects. It's all over. They're being done. And the beauty is that people are moving into those affordable housing. Those who are buying, I was trying to take advantage and get one for myself in Homa Bay, only to find, and this is a very sad thing, ladies and gentlemen. As you are being told affordable housing is bad and something you should reject, and that when the opposition takes over, the first thing they're going to do is to demolish those houses, I can tell you it is nearly impossible to land those houses, especially the ones that are under affordable. I told you there's social, there's affordable, and then there is market rate. So the social ones, those ones are purely for those who are moving from slums to decent housing. The rates are low, but it is purely those who are moving from slums. It's like a relocation program. The people of Kibra are waiting as they build the 20,000 units that are being built, and then they are moved there. You can't get into those houses. I told you, if you apply, you won't get it. But these affordable ones, the prices are always there. You just feel you save 5% nowadays, and you are allocated a house. I found that the entire affordable housing, the ones that were done in Homa Bay and commissioned, were all taken. You try the ones that are in Langata, you'll find they're all gone. Try the ones in Machakos, they are all gone. Try, if you want to know how we joke a lot, try the ones in Ruiru, Kiambu, where they are saying affordable housing is useless. Those houses are gone. They will not fit our Kenya. They want you to believe something is bad so that you don't go for it. And then they go for it. And then later, because once the house is yours, you can live in that house for a while. And then you might decide to even rent it. And then they will rent that house to you. I was being told that when Nyayo houses were being built by NSSF, around 1996, I believe. Nyayo Estate is the second largest gated community in Africa. So it's very huge. When it was being done, there were people who opposed that project vehemently, claiming it was a waste of money, it was an avenue of corruption, and so many things. But today, living in Nyayo Estate is a dream for some. And those who had already gotten those houses, now they sell them at exorbitant fees. Even charging rent, they'll charge you exorbitant rents. Yet, perhaps you could have bought one then, or you could have rented one then. Anyway, I'm just telling you that the people telling you not to go for the affordable housing remind me of the people who are advising us not to buy Safaricom shares during Kibaki's government. When Kibaki's government gave the first IPO of Safaricom, the people who told us not to buy even a single share are some of the largest shareholders in Safaricom. So at times, kuchezewa tu. We don't need to be naive. Most of these times, we need to actually verify things for ourselves before you dismiss the affordable housing and say this is a scam. They are built, I don't know where, built with what. Just go to Boma Yangu, apply, save 5%, choose where you want to be allocated. The beauty is that they are being built in each and every county. And I'm not kidding when I say each and every county. There is no county where they are not building affordable housing, including Mandera. They're there. So you just say, this is where I would want to live. And you're allocated. If they're done, you're allocated, you get in, you get your key, start living there. When you try and it fails, then you are justified to come and say, this is a sham. In fact, I remember the other day there was this report that people were asking for refund, that thousands were asking for refunds. I was telling a friend of mine, I don't know whether he's tuned in, that I'm one of the people who asked for refund because the two houses that I was interested in were not available. I was saving for the houses that actually had been already picked. By the time my savings were now approaching the 5%, the houses I wanted, because in as much as I love my country, I'm not going to buy a house in Kilifi. I am also not going to pick a house in maybe Marsabit. No offense to those who in Marsabit. I would want something that is either in Homa Bay or Kisii or Nairobi. Those would work for me, but there was nothing. They were already all taken. So in that case, I was asking for a refund, and it's normal. They have allowed you to ask for a refund if you can't get the house. They have allowed you. It's a very good process. What I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, is that the affordable housing program had two major goals. One is to solve the housing crisis that some people are now denying doesn't exist. If you want to know how petty we can be, okay? If you want to know how petty we can be sometimes, the there are people who are denying today that we don't have housing crisis, that hatutaki manyumba, nyumba tunaweza jijengea. Really, in a country where we have 7 million people living in slums, somebody just for petty politics is telling you, hatutaki manyumba, nyumba tunaweza jijengea. As if the 26 million Kenyans who are multidirectional poor can afford to build a house. If somebody is living in slums in Nairobi, you think it is a choice. You think somebody would come all the way from, let's say, Nyeri to come and live in a slum in Nairobi. Really? You think it is a personal choice? This is somebody who can actually build a good house, but he has just chosen, or she has just chosen to live in a slum. No, the person can't. And that is when the government chips in. I was saying, first, it is to handle the to handle the housing crisis. But two is to create jobs. And one of the greatest employers today in this country, and I know some people, I once met a guy, ladies and gentlemen, this is very funny. I once met a guy who spends his entire day online criticizing affordable housing, calling it a complete scam. And the guy is good. He has some good English. And then one day, I think he was not picked. I don't know what happened, and he wanted to move to the next project. And so this guy gets to me that, my friend, I've been doing the affordable housing, and it's been good, but now they are saying, we have to wait, and I can't wait. I need another. I was like, which affordable housing? The ones you are saying are scam and don't exist. So it creates jobs. There are people who would say, no, it doesn't, but it does create jobs. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are being created through affordable housing. And so it is solving two things. And when we say jobs, we are not just talking this some arguments that will make you laugh, after which you will cry. That who told you sisi wote ni watu wa mjengo? ati who told you sisi wote ni watu wa mjengo? So according to the understanding of mjengo, first of all, they believe mjengo is a very demeaning job, and they think that huko kwa mjengo everybody is actually doing koroga. Now, a construction site, if you've ever had a house, if you have ever done a house at a huko Ocha, you understand that it is not just people doing manual job. There are several elements or components of building a house. You will need architect. You'll need different people, and these people already have some jobs. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen for ourselves affordable housing across the country. Most of them are almost done. Actually, the first phases, because in each and every county, they will do several phases. They are not just going to have those few houses in Homa Bay or those few houses in Nairobi. No, they are going to do several phases. And the initial phases, even if you go to Kisumu, are doing very well. The initial phases are done, most of them. Some are at 90%. And we've seen, even in places like Mukuru, people moving to houses. Actually, I don't even want you to imagine. You just go to, if you are in Nairobi, just go to Mukuru, and you'll see a very vibrant estate there. People who are in the slums are living in decent housing. In your opinion, is that a bad thing? Should that be something we frown upon? An effort to solve the housing crisis, an effort to ensure that 7 million Kenyans who are living in deplorable conditions actually also have decency. If that is something that annoys you, I don't know, but I leave it to you. Is it something you would commend or condemn? Is the jobs that are being created things you don't like, or are they things you would commend? Would you say that because 1.5% of your payslip is deducted to build these houses, that is a deal breaker? And for that reason, for raiding your payslip, so that at least your relative can get a decent life or get a job, is something that you would rather die than see happening. I leave that to you, ladies and gentlemen. I can see a lot of comments here, but as usual, we go through the matter, the subject matter, and then we sample all the comments. And as usual, I will read all the comments, whether they are disagreeing or agreeing. This is a conversation. And if you're getting value, don't forget to like. Already we have 18 likes. 18 people have gotten value. I am humbled. Now, and thank you for tuning in, those who are still watching. Feel free to share your views and questions if you have. Let us engage. It is our country. And if there's something that I'm saying here that you're persuaded is outright lie, call me out there. Say, hiyo ni story ya jaba, my friend. Coffee. We are nowadays being paid very little. I'm a coffee farmer. And during Kenyatta, during Moi, during Kibaki, during Uhuru, we were earning more. Ruto has messed coffee. Say there. If you are in the dairy, tea, whether it is sugarcane, or you are a maize farmer, nowadays you are getting 2 bags instead of 10 you are getting before Ruto. Tell us there. If you are one of the people who moved from Mukuru slums and moved into those houses, and you are like, this is the most mediocre living I have ever experienced, I would rather be in that teen than here. Also, feel free, share there. If you are a civil servant who says, this 1.5 is a deal breaker for me, I rather keep it and let everybody else suffer, also talk there. This is a democracy. There is another thing. In Kenya, these are very disturbing facts. In Kenya, there are some counties that don't even have what qualifies as a level 4 hospital. And it is an entire county. What that means is, before these people are transported to other counties to be treated, and because the roads are also bad, they'll die in the process. That is why you have other parts of this country where life expectancy is at 68, while other parts of the same country, life expectancy is at 54. The same country. You are in the same country, but there's a part of this country where somebody can live for 68 years. And there is also part of this country where, ukichapa 54, you've outdone yourself. See? Why? Because of health. Health care in Kenya, for some reason, was structured to be a preserve of a few people. Yes. And the elite. I have seen an MP who had some small conflict with a fellow MP, and I don't know, injured the pinky forever. And that person travels to South Africa for some medical care. And then I investigate. I'm like asking, wow, these people have a lot of money. You mean some small scratch on your finger and you are traveling to South Africa for care? And then I find that it is taxpayers paying for that. I was like, oh God, what is this? Only to realize that members of parliament and high ranking government officials actually have in excess of 10 million as annual cover for inpatient. 10 million inpatient. And some of them have lucrative 3 million outpatient medical cover. It makes sense. Why not go to Japan just to kitu kikuingia kwa macho hivi, instead of doing what we normal people do, just rub it with water until the end. Just go to Japan to have it looked. After all, there's money provided by taxpayers. So Ruto argues this way, and he has said this publicly, so I'm not creating what he argues. He says, these taxpayers have given us a medical cover that they can never even dream of. Of course, it was not voluntarily. We didn't give them. They gave themselves at our behest. He's saying, would it be too criminal if we gave 2.75% of what we are earning so that people out there, especially the poor, can also enjoy a medical cover? That is how we put it. And the elite were like, no, that is not going to happen. Never. It is not my duty to look at how somebody else is taken care of. But I want to tell you today, and if you're a civil servant, you can confirm with me here. The cover you get as a civil servant, even if you went to Nairobi Hospital today, they will tell you, we only accept civil servant, something like that. It's very annoying. It's very annoying, especially if you're not a civil servant. If you're a civil servant, it's okay. But that special care you are getting, it is courtesy of the taxes of the millions who are poor. How many civil servants do we have in Kenya? 1 million. How many Kenyans do we have? 50 something million. What percentage is a civil servant of Kenya? Very negligible. But they are taken care of in terms of housing. They are taken care of in terms of health. And now when you ask, can you just give us 1.5% so that at least we build houses for others and create jobs for fellow Kenyans? They're like, you are reading our payslip, and for that reason, we are taking you home. You tell them, you are already getting good cover. I can tell you have been a civil servant sometime. I don't know whether it was public servant or civil servant. I don't know the difference, but I enjoyed this firsthand. I pay more on SHA than some civil servants I know, but they get better health care than I do. Because most hospitals would say we only accept civil servant cover. And they don't even miss it, especially private hospitals. They'll just tell you that. Even if you have SHA, they will be like, we only accept civil servant cover of SHA. That civil servant is being told, and I've said, I know people I pay more than they do for SHA. But they are like, no. I cannot help another person out there. If you try to take 2% and tell me to pay for health cover, I'm supposed to pay 700, Bob. Even if the health cover I'm getting is a million or two. And ladies and gentlemen, William Ruto was saying, let us be human. We are not trying to have an Arambe per se, but we're just being appreciative, realistic that if our neighbor is not capable of having healthcare, they will soon become our burden. Soon they will be our burden. Now, some people disagree with that. Allow me to take water. Some people disagree with that. They're like, a friend was telling me, I didn't tell those people to come to Nairobi and live in slums. Now, this is a civil servant that those people in the slum have accorded them housing. They have been accorded what? House allowance. They have so many allowances, courtesy of those poor people anyway. So William said, let us have a health cover that can take care of as many Kenyans as possible. NHIF was there, okay. What was it supposed to do? NHIF was supposed to wait for you to be sick. Initially, NHIF was called National Hospital Insurance Fund. I think that is what was the name. I don't know whether it was changed to health cover. It was National. Let me see if it is National Hospital. Yes. Yes, it was National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF. What it meant is that it would only take care of you once you are in hospital. It didn't have primary care. So the president says, let us approach health in this manner. Let us have what we call primary care, which is mostly preventive. Because as they say, prevention is better than cure. So let us first of all go the route of preventing. So they come up with something called SHA. SHA is not a cover. SHA is an authority. Okay? It is called Social Health Authority. The word social here refers to the fact that we are putting our resources together to fund a pool. Social. So, Social Health Authority. But this Social Health Authority has 3 funds. Fund number 1 is called Primary Health Fund. Primary Health Fund. This one is supposed to cover you up to level 3. So it covers you from where? Okay, fine. You've seen people called health promoters, community health promoters. Have you met one? They're there. And in their thousands, by the way. There are now, I think, 100,000 community health promoters. So what is their work? While it has not been distributed so well across the country, this is the work of a community health promoter. And if one of you is a member of the team, is a community health promoter, and you're watching, if I describe your job in a way that is not true, also just help me through correcting me there. But what a community health promoter is supposed to do is go to a home, get the data about the people in that particular household, know what their existing illnesses are or conditions are. Mostly they're called pre-existing conditions or chronic health issues. Just know all their details. What is this person? What is their name? What is their age? What are they suffering from? Things like that. And then, once you've covered that, be available should they be needing some local help. And what do I mean by local help? Let's say somebody has headache. Instead of going and lining in an hospital at level 6 for headache, a community health promoter should be bringing you what you need for that headache before you go to the health center at the community there. So this primary health fund covers you until level 3. What do you pay for that? You pay 0 shillings for that. I want to repeat that. For you to access primary health fund or primary health care, that is from community promoter to health center to level 2 to level 3, all you have to do is be registered with SHA. That's all. For you to access from community health promoter services to level 3. Meaning, level 3 hospital, unaweza zaa huko. Meaning that is all taken care of for free. That is taken care of by your taxes. It is already put there. Your contribution don't matter, whether you've contributed a cent, whether you've contributed nothing. Up to level 3, you get cover. The challenge people have, most of people, and I think I was also a victim sometime, is because the access I have is to a level 4 hospital. So I would go to that level 4 and be told that I can't access the services. Why? The argument is I needed to at least have exhausted the previous levels, because whatever I was going to take there was just some home drugs, which I could have taken if the community health promoters were moving in Nairobi, as they should. I would have called the person assigned to my house and then get those drugs. Now, let's say whatever you're suffering from can't be handled by community health promoters, health center, or even at level 3. Let's say you have an emergency and you need some surgery. This may not be handled easily at level 3. So you'll need level 4. So, because you are now looking for specialized services, another fund kicks in. This is the fund that replaced NHIF. SHA did not replace NHIF. They are not equal. SHA is an authority with 3 different funds. The first fund I've told you is Primary Healthcare Fund. Okay? So, if you were to go to level 4, you are to take services in level 5 or even level 6. Then, ladies and gentlemen, the next fund kicks in. And that is what we call SHIF. Social Health Insurance Fund. SHIF is what has replaced NHIF. NHIF didn't have primary health care, and it doesn't have the next after SHIF. So you go to hospital. SHIF is contributory. You contribute. Whether you are a civil servant or not, you contribute. If you are not a civil servant, you go to SHA website or their app, you put your details there. It will do mean testing. Initially, it allowed people to fill in details. As you know, Kenyans who are living in Lang'ata, a Kenyan living in Lang'ata would just say that he's living in a thatched house with a latrine outside. They would feel so that at least SHA would tell them to pay 500 shillings per month. And that is why it's what some people are paying anyway. And they're living in places where they can afford more. So they removed that self-evaluation. What you do once you put your ID and phone number, the system will just do its magic and rate you. If they rate you in a way that you feel it's uncomfortable or doesn't make sense, for instance, you are living in the slums and they have said you're supposed to be paying 12K or 4,000 per month, that is not affordable to you. There is that room for appeal. Okay? There is the room for appeal. You appeal. You say, I live here. You are putting me somewhere. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once you've registered, it will tell you this. This is now where you contribute. The only fund of all these three funds, the only fund you contribute to is that SHIF. And it will tell you how much you're supposed to contribute per month, which they made it to be paid annually. The argument against per month is that it is a social fund. So remember, whatever you're paying is supposed to be put in a pool to take care of everybody else. Some people, because of our nature, by nature, we are all selfish. So what some people will do, they'll just pay for that month that they're going to hospital. So for instance, I am sick, I want to go to hospital, I go to SHA, I pay, I get treated, I go back. I pay maybe 500 and I get a cover of maybe 40,000 or 50,000. And then I go back, I keep quiet again. So they say you pay for a year. But once you've paid this, ladies and gentlemen, you have better cover as inpatient, because the reason as to why they give you better inpatient cover with SHIF is that at level 4, remember how we were saying, when you are at level 3 and it can't be handled, then level 3 is supposed to refer you to level 4. That means you are sick, you are admitted. Okay, you don't just go and line at level 4 and say, I want Panadol. That can be handled at level 3 or below. So you go to level 4, chances are that you are going to spend out of pocket. Because what they're discouraging is somebody walking to Lang'ata, to Kenyatta Hospital because it is nearby, and making a long queue there, asking for things that can be handled in the nearby clinic. So they are encouraging you to go back to those clinics, because in those places, you will find that outpatient is taken care of. So let's say this SHIF, your contribution is exhausted, because that is possible. I'm not saying in terms of the money, your cover, whatever you are given as a cover. So let's say they give you an inpatient cover of 700,000. And this is exhausted when you are in hospital. So what happens? Do you now start making phone calls? Do you now text your neighbors and tell them, my friends, I am dying here, SHA yangu imeisha? No. It takes you to the next fund, which is also not contributory. And it is what they call chronic. It is what they call emergency and chronic diseases fund. This one, if you are to get, God forbid, but if you are to be in an emergency, umegongwa na gari, whatever it is, even some serious emergency, trauma, whatever it is. Initially, you'd go to hospital. There would be a demand that you make a deposit before this patient is seen. Unless we want to lie, that is usually the thing we used to handle. You will go with a patient, amekatwa vibaya. You go there, you are told, make a deposit. If before you make that deposit, the patient is just bleeding there. Now, in this one, this this emergency and chronic diseases fund, it takes care of emergency and diseases that could not be handled through SHIF, because it is now being considered a chronic disease. This is why you hear that now you have up to 800,000 for cancer. Okay? Nobody is paying 800,000 as their contribution, but that is a cover you have for that chronic disease. It is not millions, but it is better than anything that has ever been offered for cancer patients. If you know any cover that government had before this that gave patients 800,000, just mention them. Or if you have a cancer patient, or yourself is a cancer patient, unfortunately, and there was a better cover before than what you have now. Okay. So those are the covers that you have under SHA. I have taken my time, ladies and gentlemen, to explain them in layman's language. Which of these do you find offensive? Which of these do you find something that should have not been done? Don't you want primary health care? Is it offensive to you? Do you find that having SHIF to take care of you in level 3, level 4, level 5, and level 6 is a bad thing? If a mother today can go and have newborn unit services without paying a coin, when before that it was impossible with NHIF, is this an improvement or something bad? I know there are people whose hospitals have been closed because they had very funny deals with NHIF. They would admit ghost patients and make millions of claims. That is what they were told they will not be paid. And so some of them have had to close shop. There are also some that brought that funny behavior into SHA, especially in Mandera, where one woman would give birth in several hospitals the same day or the same year. In places like Homa Bay, where the same thing they are charging you for, they are already billing SHA. So many hospitals in Homa Bay were actually closed, and Kisii. Apart from these people who are complaining because of businesses, I was making millions through NHIF, now I can't. For that reason, I want this SHA thing to fail. Apart from those people, an ordinary person who goes to hospital and gets a better cover, do you think this is something they're going to frown upon or support? Like I say today, I don't make decisions. I just leave that to you. It's you to say, "Nah, I think it's a pathetic thing. Who asked for that? We were doing very well health-wise." It's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there is this issue of business, and a friend of mine commented very early. It's called Ben Mugambi, one of the earliest commentators. He said that businesses have collapsed. Kenya is doing badly off under Ruto than it was before in terms of business. Now, you see, when somebody gives you personal experience, you don't dismiss them. So you don't say, no, business are doing well. Perhaps his business has failed, and you are here claiming that businesses are thriving under William Ruto. But then you see, it doesn't dismiss the fact that there are other businesses that are doing very well under Ruto. But that is not the subject. Ruto says, you see, there are some businesses that may require millions to start, but there are other businesses that require very little. I can give you practical examples. There are friends, or just let's say friends, who have come and said, I have this idea. I want to start selling mutumba shoes or clothes or a hotel. Just prepare something small, a kibanda, something like that. And you find that what they are requesting for is some small money. So this small money, why are they asking it from you? Why not use lenders? Why not go to bank? Well, because the government was heavily borrowing from local banks felt like giving loans to wananchi was not as profitable. So most of them preferred giving loans to government because the rates are higher and government barely defaults. So that avenue of borrowing from bank, while other people would still get money from bank, was not something that everybody could access. But two, there were what we call predatory lenders, people who would give you 500 shillings and you will end up returning this 500 shillings maybe within a small week, within a short week or 2 weeks, you are returning this money at maybe 400% interest. So that is predatory. The president says to cushion Kenyans from predatory lenders, let us introduce Hustler Fund. Of course, it was opposed. It was dismissed. People said this thing will fail, it will collapse. In fact, I remember a group of friends who said it is our money, so they borrowed and never paid back. I am one of those who borrowed because for me, I test Ruto's policies directly. I am on SHA. I just told you I tried affordable housing, but I couldn't get the houses I want because people who are saying those things are bad have already taken them. Um, I also borrowed. I also did agriculture. I said that I went for the fertilizer. For me, I want to be in a position where if I would come here and tell you that Ruto's policies are not working, it is because I've tried them. So that I can tell you these are the challenges, these are what he can improve about them. I have a lot of things I could suggest as improvement because I've used these services. I have used the Hustler Fund. I have used the affordable housing. Bomayangu have been there. Of course, I am a chronic user of e-citizen for registering businesses. So I've seen the efficiency. How long does it take to nowadays register a business in Kenya, especially a business name? Does it still take 14 days? Do I still wait for a month? Is that the case? I know those because I try to use those services to see for myself. And that is what I would encourage us here. These policies or these services that president is offering, at times dismissing them before you try them becomes tricky. I remember an MP who was being asked, he's a senator for Muranga, yes. He was being asked, have you used SHA? He's like, no. Why do you claim it doesn't work? To those who have used it are saying it doesn't work. Who? At times, try them. If they don't work, you have evidence. You'll say, see, here, I tried. It doesn't work. I tried to borrow the hustler fund thing you are talking about here. It doesn't work. Though they borrow me, they give me 8K. That is my limit that I get. But I was telling you, he introduced this hustler fund to do three things. First, shield the Kenyans at the bottom of the pyramid, people who need very small amounts, people who need 500 shillings. There are people like that who just need 500 shillings, take a crate of eggs, boil them, sell them, like that. You've seen even women in Kisumu or in some places like Kongowea. I saw them. They just borrow very little. They borrow you maybe 1,000, buy something, sell, and return the money. The problem is that those who are giving you the 1,000 want very crazy interest. So he said, save these people at the bottom of the pyramid through save them through creation of Hustler Fund. That way, you pay the least interest. In fact, if you borrowed 500 shillings, I can confirm to you, if you borrowed 500 shillings, you will return that with, in 2 weeks, you will return it with 4 shillings. That is not what you return your Fuliza with. That is not what you return your Mshwari or KCB M-Pesa. All these thousands of the likes of Tala, the likes of Branch, etc. They don't allow you to return 4 bob. Or at the end of the month, you find that you are owing them 9 shillings. No, it doesn't work like that. So this was saving Kenyans at the bottom of the pyramid from predatory lenders, those who are making you pay more than you are supposed to pay, maybe even 3,000% in repayment. But two, it was to provide money for these small businesses. People who I was giving example need maybe 1,000 to go and buy smoky, boil them, sell them, and then return the money. They have Hustler Fund to give them that money instantly. And then they return and pick. It's endless for them. And I've met people in real life who are doing so well with that. For you, perhaps 1,000 is nothing. But I always insist here that what someone is treating as trash is treasure elsewhere. So what you might belittle, who needs 1,000? Who needs 500? Yes, there's somebody who does need that 500 to go and pick omena from Soko and sell, and then return the money in the evening. So those are people who are targeted. I said it was supposed to do 3 things. First, protect people from predatory lending. Then 2, provide small capitals, petty cash that people need for businesses. But also, there is something here that people forget. There is this family that is going to go without food. And they have tried calling their neighbors, their relatives. Nobody is willing to give them even 200 shillings. The money that they're supposed to get, they're not sure whether they're going to get it today or tomorrow. So whatever they had waited for. Mtu ameenda mjengo, you've gone to hustle, the foreman disappeared, didn't pay you that day. So chances are the foreman is going to pay, but he didn't pay. So you are going home and you have nothing to eat. You see, this Hustler Fund, that is also is its objective. It is to provide you with what we can call a stopgap measure, something that is going to help you in the interim. You can go to your Hustler Fund, pick the 500 shillings. If you are going to need that, buy some meal as you wait for the foreman to give you, because you have at least 14 days to return the money. And even if you are to take a month, it will just be something like 9% of 500 shillings, which is very little. So, ladies and gentlemen, this Hustler Fund, to some, it is a useless waste, but to people it targeted, it is changing lives. I am now under the pillar of micro, small, and medium businesses. And I was telling you the first thing was financial inclusion through that Hustler Fund. Ensure that you are protected from predatory lenders. Ensure that you have petty cash or petty capital for small businesses. And then some emergency money so that you don't go without food. This might sound for some who are doing extremely well, this might sound like story ajaba, but I can tell you, if you have a relative who is not doing extremely well and maybe in slum, you can ask them if they are not picking the Hustler Fund to buy food. They do. So, what else is it doing in terms of ensuring businesses are doing well? Registration of businesses. Still, I wanted it to go the Singapore route where it is one day and it is just one business license. But I can still see there's a lot of bureaucracy, though the days have reduced. Now, I can tell you, registering a business name, something that you can use to trade, by the way, initially, you would reserve the name. That is 1 week. Then, after you've reserved the name, you download the form and then fill it, maybe get an attorney to stamp it for you. You upload, you wait for 2 weeks. Or in some cases, you could even wait for a month for the business to go through. Today, I can tell you, reservation of the names and registration of a business name is done at once. So you put the 3 names in order of priority and you fill all the details that you need to fill, including filling the form, the B2 form. And then you wait. This is where it is interesting. You don't wait for more than a week. In some cases, if you make a call, I realize that works like charm. If you make a call, because they have a call center, the Business Registration Bureau, they have a call center. You call them, you tell them I applied this and it has taken 3 days or 4 days. And then they tell you we've escalated this, and most definitely you usually get results almost immediately if there's a correction, if there's something you need to do, and it is just 900. So the ease of registering business, in my opinion, is improving. It can still be better, but it's improving. Something else about businesses is that if you go throughout this country, you will find very modern markets being put up, and they're the same design, but very modern markets. Now, some people are dismissing this. Nani atauza huko? Kenyans are used to selling on the road. What? But I tell you, I don't know how many of you have gone to South Africa, especially Cape Town. So if you go to the Sea Point part, they have a market. I was really impressed by that market. You find a market, or let's use the example of Dubai. Dubai has a market, an open air market. Is it even open air? But it has virtually everything. Like what they are trying to replicate in Kamkunji Gikomba. It has virtually everything. A place for movies, a place for what? Everything is there, but it's very organized. It is extremely clean. And that is where we must be headed. We cannot go the route of selling on Matope or selling in very dirty places in the name of that is where the customers are. No, things are done. Village market. And I want to give you an example. Just in Kenya, if you went to, is it Valley Arcade, where we have the zucchini? There's a zucchini shop there. You will go there, you'll find they are very well arranged. Village market is arranged. Most of these places are very well arranged. You won't find somebody selling in dirt or selling in very dirty conditions the way they were doing in Gikomba. No. And we cannot normalize that. What sometimes hurt is that we want to normalize mediocrity and say that is what we want. Yet, just in the same country, there are places that are very organized. I was asking a friend, if you went to Kitisuru, for instance, would you find people throwing garbage all over? After you've eaten your mango, you throw it out there. No, they don't do that. They're just Kenyans, as we are. But it's just a matter of organizing yourself, deciding that this is the life we want to live. Okay? So these markets, some people are dismissing them, but they're being built across the country, everywhere, by the way. In some counties, they're doing almost 10 of them. Eventually, these are going to transform how we do business. Because first of all, it will be organized. If I want something, I go directly to the market. Today, we go to supermarkets. Supermarkets don't come to us. It is, we know whatever we want is at the supermarket, so we go there. It doesn't come to us, ladies and gentlemen. So this idea that customers will not come, they will. They need the services. If you are organized and you have a clean place, you can go there and sell. Congo, where market was done, people are there selling. It's okay. The Gatundu market, the one that is at Karatina. These markets, people usually embrace them, get in there and sell. Even the ones that are being done in Gikomba, people will occupy them. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is also something that is being done to ease, to make doing business easier in Kenya. I think I would continue until tomorrow without reading your comments, which will be unfair. But now we only remain with one. So let me sample some of your comments. Then we finalize with digital economy, if that is okay. But so far, I'm asking those things that William Ruto promised he would do and he is doing them, are they working? The examples I'm giving you, are they things you can relate with? Or are we just going to say, since I don't like Ruto, as a friend Ben was saying, that whether he performs or not is going to be voted out? Then on what grounds are we judging the person? Remember, a presidential candidate is judged based on the manifesto. What did you promise people to do? William Ruto promised 5 things. Is he implementing those 5 things that he promised? I have told you here with examples, he is doing so. Are these things making impact? Yes, they are doing. The issue is, are you happy with the impact, or you feel like we should maintain the status quo? Let me sample some of your comments, ladies and gentlemen. Ben is the first person who commented. He said the bottom up has spectacularly failed. SMEs are struggling. There is no money circulation in the country. This government has refused to pay pending bills, and citizens have become more poorer. Mugambi says Felix Mwanai is commenting about Mugambi, saying that your name betrays you. Okay. Royal TV. Has Ruto sabotaged the Vision 2030, as many analysts and politicians say? And in your opinion, is President Ruto supposed to unveil Vision 2060, having constitutional integrity issue corruption loan? So first, when was Vision 2030 launched? Royal TV, if Ruto is sabotaging it, was it launched during Ruto's time? When was it launched? Just so that we are on the same page, when, I'm just asking a question, when was Vision 2030 launched in Kenya? This is what it says. Vision 2030 was launched in June 10th, 2008. Okay. So June 10th, 2008. How many years are those? What do I sub? How many years are those? TV, Royal TV, are you here? How many years are those? Hmm? Hmm? How many years are those? Those are a lot of years. Way before William Ruto became president. William Ruto is just saying whatever Vision 2030 was supposed to achieve, it is not going to achieve within the time frame. We need to have a conversation of what do we do next. And he has not said, this is what I am insisting on. He has said, Kenyans, come, let us talk. Okay? So it's not sabotaged. EM. Better is an old vision, even older than Big Four. The difference, Ruto cracked the how, and the execution has been exceptional. I didn't expect this much this fast. Okay, EM. Then the what and why were always here. The how wasn't. That's what he solved, and the results speak for themselves. EM is saying, I think many Kenyans don't understand transitions. It takes a new head of state to realign the government before they start working on their agenda. Ruto's turnaround was impressive. Jude, I think it benefits all of us Kenyans to be honest and objective about the affairs of country. That is why I value the analysis on this platform. Karibu. Ben Mugambi, it took the president 2 years to finally accept that university funding model wasn't working. The same way is denying that SHA isn't working, an unlistening president. The president said the university funding model isn't working. Okay. HF, Ruto's simply the best. Patrick Kamau. Beta Jaluo, always on losing sides of politics for more than a century. Okay, Kamau, you are always a very entertaining fella. Okay, let me just read your entire comment. And you've made several comments, and I'll read all of them, by the way. He's saying, Beta Joluo always on losing side of politics for more than a century, making up stories to deny objective reality which everyone can see. Useless creatures. To what are you reacting, sir? Jude is saying, I never liked the man before, but I changed my mind based on what he has done so far. For me, it's not just the bottom up agenda, it's only part of it. For me, the inclusivity is key. Okay. EM, Mugambi, he has expanded it, not admitted it was not working. Yeah, it was just making the funding model better. And Mugambi, there is one thing here that for me, pardon, for me is very important, especially for William Ruto as an individual. William Ruto reaches a point and says, this is what I intend to achieve with this, but you're free to come up and tell me what we can modify to make it better. And that is what he's doing with most of these things. It's just a matter of they are not cast on stone. Even Hustler Fund is not cast on stone. It's not something like this Hustler Fund, you cannot change it the way it is. No, it's saying if there is better idea, let us do this. Okay. So that's what EM was telling you. Patrick, EM expanded failure. The good thing, you deceive only yourself. Kenyans cannot be deceived. Long stories that are empty and useless. Patrick, milk farmers have not been paid for 4 months by KCC. Only bitter Joluo create fairy tales. Tales to okay, you're a funny one. About success which does not exist. Next year, as usual, mtakuwa on the losing side kama kawaida. Patrick, talk to university VCs. I have personally talked to some. They all say they would have closed by now. EM is just answering Patrick. So those ones, Patrick is saying that I think they don't do cane. Okay, Patrick Kamau, you are a cane farmer too. You are a milk farm. You're doing very well for yourself. Uh-huh. Then let me read other people. Innocent Tamami. Innocent Amani. Okay. Let's be honest. Love him or hate him. Ruto has already done far better in just 4 years than Kibaki and Uhuru in their respective 10 years. Drop-wise, it is our common responsibility to ensure a good leader like Ruto gets a second term. Gachagua is a goon who has nothing good for non-shareholders. Innocent, just tell us what Uhuru did in 10 years. It's just the SGR, Express, and what? Where are the laptops? Okay. Uh-huh. Let me see if we have somebody else, because I'm seeing a lot from Innocent Tamami, and it is just a discussion they're having there. Marik, okay. Marik Ayamba. Ruto is doing a great job, but the opposition are making things very hard for him. Like Gachagua is making a lot of noise. I don't know who is going to stop his noise. Sobuza. Okay. Will you talk about Babu chances for Nairobi in the next video and his chances 2032? We did this before. I think it doesn't hurt. We will do one video about that. Okay. These other ones are actually just engagement between Tamami, Patrick Kamau. Okay. NZ, watching live from Patrick Kamau nagombana in a very childish way. Okay. Mutisia, County Aggregation and Industrial Park is the only associated pillar that is still lagging behind. And this one, by the way, Mutisia is lagging behind because of the governance. Remember, country aggregation and industrial plans were supposed to be a partnership between the national government and the counties. And it depends whether a county would want to do this or not. Some are very relaxed, if you may. NZ is watching from Houston, Texas. Uh-huh. Kamau and Innocent are on each other here. Allow me to respect their discussion. Let me read something from NZ. I think this is in response to Kamau. Kamau is very insulting. Kamau, here, because I'm seeing you commenting, maybe for the second time, we don't use foul language. There is no need of insulting people's mothers. If you differ, it's understandable because, like I insist, nobody here is going to play monopoly of knowledge. So you are arguing that milk farmers have not been paid by KCC for 4 months. If that is so, you see, that would be like, okay, it is high price, but they're not being paid. Okay, so have milk farmers. Yeah, we just ask, when is the last time? Is the last time? It's really insulting others here. Okay, is the last time KCC paid milk farmers? Let me see. Okay, because you're 4 years. Your 4 months is not working. According to them, they are saying they paid, even last month was paid. Anyway, perhaps you're a farmer and you've not been paid, so I don't want to debate. Uh-huh. So these are just the debates between these other guys. Okay. Yeah, I'm being told to block Patrick. Before we block somebody, we give them room. Patrick has just come, and let me tell you why somebody like Patrick is not going to be blocked on this platform. The reason as to why Patrick will not be blocked here is because yesterday I told you something. There are two kinds of people. When you challenge their belief, they react by fighting back. Then there are those, when you challenge their beliefs, they do introspection. You sit and you ask yourself, I believe in William Ruto, but what this person has presented is making me ask myself a question. Is it true Ruto is this? Because me, the Ruto I know is this good guy who is doing this. But whatever Patrick is presenting here is challenging this. And by the way, is pointing out to facts. So there are two people. Patrick points out to facts and things that everybody knows. And we are like, get out. Or I do point out and explain what Ruto promised and what he has delivered. And that challenges what Patrick believes in. Because perhaps is from where Ruto has done nothing, Ruto has achieved nothing. He is the worst president. I was watching some live stream before we started this. And somebody, the guest who was there, was saying, since independence, there is no president who has mismanaged Kenya more than President Ruto. And this person went ahead and said Ruto is the worst president in the history of this country and in the history of Africa. My friend, and the bitterness with which they were saying that. So perhaps Kamau is from there. And then he comes here and he finds that we are explaining the things that this worst president who has done nothing has actually done, and that challenges what their beliefs are. And some people, when their beliefs are challenged, I told you, they fight back by either insulting people, trolling them, dismissing them. But we are not blocking you. We want you to come here every now and then and get the other side of the story. Perhaps what they're feeding you is one sided. Like now, you believe milk farmers have not been paid. You are saying you are a cane farmer and at least you've never been paid. Ruto is the worst thing. Luos are, I don't know how you painted us, useless creatures. And all this you're saying, uh, NZ is calling them trolls. But NZ, these are not trolls. This is the status of an individual when what they believe dearly has been challenged and they have nothing else to say. So I want you here. Every time I'll go live, I'll even give a shout out to you and ask, where is Patrick? I want you here. But next time, this is my proposal. This is my proposal. Even if you differ, don't insult people. Just differ. Don't call people useless creatures. Don't insult people's mothers the way you're doing. It's not necessary. Most of the people who are on this particular live are respectable people. They are individuals who respect themselves. Even if you differ, copy from Ben Mugambi. He differs, but he will just differ on what he believes. And sometimes he will even thank you for answering his question. Now, let me conclude because time is not on our side, especially for Kenyans. Ladies and gentlemen, the last pillar is about the digital superhighway. So, what is this all about? This, according to me, is Ruto's solution to joblessness among the young people. As we speak today, this is something you can confirm. Kenyans lead the entire world in the time spent on social media. I want to repeat that. Kenyans spend the most time on social media in the entire world. That means the Kenyans who access internet are somehow always online. And if they are there, then you should ensure that you have a way they can make something for themselves. Today, majority of Kenyans are creators. And not majority, but quite a good number of Kenyans are creators, whether they are creators on platforms like TikTok or Facebook or X, or even platforms like YouTube. There are Kenyans who are creators who are earning a living through that. Initially, Meta had not considered monetizing Kenyan pages, but the president took an initiative and that was done. They are currently in talks with TikTok to ensure that creators in Kenya are paid the same way creators in other European countries and US are paid. Because in Kenya, perhaps you have to do those crazy things they're doing on TikTok to get flowers, and I don't know what they're called. And then after that, you collect them, you change them into money and cash out. But there is also that ad revenue. When you scroll your TikTok nowadays, you'll find that perhaps you'll just pass two videos and then there will be an ad. You are supposed to, as a creator, you are supposed to share in that ad revenue. The same way Facebook and YouTube do share. So these are things that the president is looking into under this digital economy, so that at least Kenyans find a way of making money now that they are already online. I have told you, they are the people who spend the most time online. That is why it's very easy for Kenyans to troll United States. Now, do you know how many people in the United States are online? Hundreds of millions. There's so many people there. Now, Kenyans who are online are not that many, but they spend the most time. So it means the few who are there are always online. Today, even if you walk, you will find people in their shops, but they're with their phone, they are online on social media consuming content. And so the president is saying, can we tap into that? They should not just be online there, and some of them are creatives and they can't make something out of it. So Meta is already paying, and I saw some people really complaining that the whatever Meta is paying them is so mediocre. Meta should keep the money, but they don't understand how online views are paid. They are paid by country. So if most of the people who are viewing your content are from a country that barely advertises on those platforms, you won't make a lot of money. I told you there is a platform, there's a channel that gets 1 million views and gets 30,000 Kenya shillings from 1 million views. Million views is not very easy to get, especially on YouTube. But this person gets 1 million views and then earns 30,000 before tax. So after tax, perhaps the person ends up with 22,000. The job you put in to get 1 million view is a lot of job. So most of the time you're paid by country, but two, by the quality of the views. I told you can even have 200 views that are paying better than 10,000 views. And that is what is happening on platforms like Meta. There are people who put a reel. This reel is not their original content. They have just picked something from maybe TikTok, put it there. It is viral. It is getting 2 million views on Meta. And they're like, 2 million views is supposed to give me a lot of money. No, advertisers are not going to pay a lot of money for that. Most of the time, they won't pay a lot of money for that, especially if you're from Kenya. You will need a lot of views. I don't know whether most of you watch shorts on YouTube. Those shorts have the potential of going viral. You'll find a short that has maybe 50 million views, but what it earns is not equivalent. So watch hour also matters, and watch hour is how long people took watching that content. A clip that is 30 seconds, even if everybody was watching the whole of it, how many times must it be watched to get 1 hour? So those are the things that are considered. I just wanted to explain that because somebody was asking why are we paid very little. But however little you're being paid now under William Ruto and you are not being paid before, especially on Meta, and TikTok will start paying anyway. So that is the one part of this fifth pillar, the digital economy. And also, this digital economy still has another part where they are building what we call ICT hubs. This is an agreement the president had with all members of parliament to use CDF to build an ICT hub per ward. Each and every ward is supposed to have an ICT hub fully equipped so that Kenyans, young people, can go there and do micro jobs. So it is the work also of government. Actually, we have a state department for digital economy these days and ICT, and that department is supposed to also negotiate with these platforms that offer micro jobs. You know, these online jobs where you do very few things and you make some money. And these are the things that are supposed to be done in those ICT centers, ICT hubs. So you go there is internet, and that is where the superhighway comes, those thousands of fiber connectivity, so that the entire country is accessible in terms of internet. Currently, shock on you, very few, a small percentage of Kenyans are actually online, contrary to what you may think. Majority are not. I dare say 70% of Kenyans are not online. Yeah, if you didn't know. The 30 who are online are very active, but majority are not online. So if you wanted to reach people, some places are very remote, you will need that fiber, optic cabling, and so that at least Kenyans everywhere can work online, do some things easily. If you want to do something on eCitizen, you can just go to the ICT hub and do it. If you want to study, you can just go access internet and do it. That is what he is doing there. Anything that he is doing with this digital economy, with this uh, ICT infrastructure, is all aimed at making sure that the penetration of internet and connectivity maybe gets us to maybe 90%. And that is easier. If you have such a foundation, it is very easy to grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to wrap up, the president made some promises, 5 of them. He got into power. He has implemented each, not 100%, but each of the things he promised is being done, not abandoned, being done. Would you look at that person and say this is a liar? Because there's a narrative of William Ruto made promises and has done none. And somebody would look at you in the face and tell you so. I want you to consider what I've shared here. And today we've talked for longer. But I want you to consider what we've shared here and tell me, do you agree that William Ruto has been consistent with his promises? And if these things that he promised he would do are things that you believe have the potential of changing this country, would you give him a chance to continue doing that for another 5 years? Or according to you, these are deal breakers that you must send him home for? I want to hear from you. But that is where I end, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to thank you for taking your time. This video was a little bit longer today because it was a topic that majority of you have actually asked that we do this also. We look at what has Ruto achieved. And I believe I've taken my time to exhaustively discuss each. There could be a lot of things I've left out there because this is something that might take hours. But I believe I've painted the picture so that even if you've just joined now, you can replay the video. And then if there is a part that you feel I was exaggerating things or was just being partisan and etc., call me out there, either in the comment section or in the chats. Otherwise, allow me to thank you once again, those who have taken time, the 40 people who have been watching and the 36 people who liked. I thank you so much. If you want to support this channel, don't forget there is the join button there. You join, you become a member, and now an insider, raw politics insider, and then we grow together. Otherwise, allow me to thank you once more, and good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you are.